My name is Caroline Whitman, and for a long time I really thought I was living a dream life. Picture this. I'm 38 years old, a published author, living in a beautiful brownstone in Manhattan. My husband, Mark, is a financial consultant with one of those deep, velvety voices that could soothe me instantly. He always spoke to me like I was the most precious thing in the world. Just the way he said my name, slow and gentle, like it was a promise, made me feel safe. Our days had this beautiful rhythm. Mornings began with a kiss on my forehead and a fresh cup of coffee, exactly how I liked it. Evenings always ended the same, him whispering that I was his everything. I believed him. I believed it all. Until the night everything fell apart. It was just before midnight. I woke up to an empty bed. I figured maybe Mark had gone to the kitchen or was checking something downstairs. I rolled over and let my eyes close again, hoping to drift back to sleep. But then I heard something. His voice, low, intense, focused. It was coming from his office. "She still doesn't suspect anything," he said. I froze. For a second, I literally couldn't breathe. My chest tightened and the room suddenly felt suffocating. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure it would wake the whole building. I pushed the covers aside and sat up, straining to hear more. "Everything's going as planned. Almost done." I got up slowly and crept toward the hallway, pressing myself flat against the wall just outside his office. The door was closed, but a sliver of light peeked through the bottom. His voice was muffled now, but I'd already heard more than enough. I slipped back into bed before he noticed, lying there stiff as stone, pretending to be asleep when he returned a few minutes later. He climbed in beside me, calm as ever, pulling the blanket over us like everything was normal. But I knew better. I didn't sleep a second that night. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, my mind unraveling. I didn't know exactly what Mark was up to, but one thing was crystal clear. He was hiding something, and whatever it was, I was at the center of it. The next morning, I moved through the kitchen like I wasn't even there. Mark was still asleep, breathing peacefully like someone with a clear conscience. I stood in front of the coffee maker, hands trembling, and reached for my phone. Here's the thing. I'd never checked our finances. Not once. Mark handled all of it. Bills, savings, investments. I thought that was part of being a good wife, trusting him to take care of things. But now I realized trust can sometimes be the first step toward destruction. I opened the banking app. My stomach dropped. There it was, transaction after transaction. $500, $1,000, $750, $2,000. Dozens of withdrawals over the past few months. Nothing that screamed fraud on its own, but together? Together, it was a glaring red flag. I gripped the edge of the counter to keep from collapsing. Then I heard his voice behind me. "Checking the account this early?" His tone was light, almost teasing, but I saw it. That flicker of something. Surprise. Alarm in his eyes as he leaned against the doorway, rubbing the back of his neck. "Just curious," I said, forcing a casual shrug. "Some of these charges don't look familiar." He strolled over, poured himself coffee, and gave me that same old easy smile. "Oh, those? Just a few investments. Meant to tell you. Forgot." He didn't even look at me when he said it. Something inside me turned cold. Not angry, not yet, but something harder, sharper. I nodded like I believed him, but I was watching now, watching every move, every lie. That night, I saw even more. He was glued to his phone, constantly stepping into another room to take calls. And when I asked what he was working on, he flashed that same practiced smile. "Just business, nothing you need to worry about." But I was worried, deeply, and that worry had transformed into something else. Resolve. I wasn't going to sit around waiting to be blindsided. I needed answers, fast. 2 nights later, I got my chance. It was quiet. Mark had just finished dinner, and went upstairs to shower. Normally, his phone was always in his pocket or right next to him. But that night, he left it on the table. I stared at it. My pulse quickened. 30 seconds passed, then 60. The water upstairs was running. I grabbed the phone. It was unlocked. My fingers were shaking as I scrolled through his messages. Most were boring, work updates, small talk. But then I saw it. A number with no name attached. Just digits. The most recent message read, "Send her the Ilium files. Just make sure she stays in the dark. Almost done." I read it 3 times. The words blurred. Who was her? Was it me? What were the Ilium files? I set the phone down exactly how I found it. My breathing was uneven. I walked into the kitchen and splashed cold water on my face, trying to focus. He wasn't just hiding something. He was orchestrating something, and I wasn't just a bystander. I was the target. That night, he kissed me goodnight like always. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, managing a small smile. "Just tired." Inside, I was screaming. He still believed I was clueless. And that, his mistake, was going to be my weapon. The next morning, the moment he left for work, I made a call. Anna Prescott, my best friend from college. She was also an estate attorney. Brilliant, relentless, exactly who I needed. We hadn't been super close in recent years, but we'd reconnected recently over coffee. I never thought I'd be calling her like this. When she answered, I didn't waste time. I told her everything. Mark's late-night calls, the strange message, the transactions. She listened without interrupting. And when I finally finished, she asked one question. "How much money are we talking about?" I hesitated. "Close to 500 million. There was a pause. Then her voice returned. "All business. Caroline, we need to move your assets. Now!" My knees gave out and I sank onto the couch. "Are you sure?" I whispered. "I'm sure. If you wait, he'll make his move first. We'll set up a trust in your name. He won't be able to touch it." I thought of everything. My royalties, the apartment, the investments, my savings, everything I had built, everything I had trusted him with. "I'm in," I said. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. Anna moved fast, faster than I thought possible. She brought in her team, and together they constructed a wall around my life. We created a trust in my name. Every asset I had, my apartment, my book royalties, the investment accounts, was legally shifted, locked down, and insulated from Mark. The paperwork felt endless. The phone calls were constant. But the whole time, Anna was laser-focused, guiding me through each step. No hesitation, no panic. By the 3rd day, when Mark walked through the door carrying takeout, his smile casual and warm like nothing had changed, I had already done the unthinkable. I had quietly protected myself from the man I had once trusted more than anyone in the world. "Thought we'd do Thai tonight," he said cheerfully, holding up the bag. I took it from him with a smile. "Sounds good." He had no idea, not a clue. The fortress was built. The doors were closed. The money was moved. And he was locked out of it all. I didn't warn him. I didn't need to. Let him believe I was still asleep. Let him make his move. Because this time I was ready. And 4 days later, Mark finally showed his hand. It was a Friday evening. He got home early, wearing one of his sleek designer suits. He looked calm, a little smug even, as he set his briefcase down and took a seat across from me at the dining table. "We need to talk," he said, sliding a folder toward me. I didn't react. I opened the folder slowly. Divorce papers. "I think this is for the best," he said smoothly, like he was reading from a script. "We've grown apart. No need to let this get ugly." I looked at him, my face unreadable. "Really?" He hesitated, just for a second. Just long enough for me to see the flicker of confusion behind his eyes. Then he recovered. "Yes, it's better this way." I took a breath and gently pushed the folder back toward him. "Before we go any further," I said calmly, "there's something you should know." He narrowed his eyes slightly. "What?" "I've already moved everything." He blinked. "What?" The apartment, the savings, my royalties, every asset. It's all in a protected trust now. You won't see a penny of it. He went pale. You can't do that. I leaned in, voice steady. I already did. His jaw clenched, his hand tightening around the edge of the folder. You don't get to do this, he hissed. No, Mark, I said, locking eyes with him. You don't get to hand me divorce papers and expect to walk away with half of my life. He stared at me, eyes searching for weakness. He didn't find any. You were right about one thing, I added, voice low. Life is unpredictable. He stood slowly, pushing his chair back. We'll see each other in court. I stood too. Go ahead, try. He stormed out of the room, and I finally exhaled. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't holding my breath. He knew now. I wasn't the woman he could manipulate anymore. But just when I thought the worst was behind me, the next blow came. This time, not at home, but at work. 3 days after Mark left, something shifted in the office. Subtle at first, side glances, quiet whispers. Colleagues who usually greeted me warmly now barely made eye contact. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But the tension was too consistent, too deliberate. And then my assistant, Rachel, walked into my office, her face pale. She was holding a piece of paper. I think you need to see this, she said softly. I took it from her, heart already sinking. It was a screenshot from an anonymous online forum. The headline hit like a punch. CFO hides funds during divorce using company money. Below that was a post accusing a high-level executive, unnamed, of embezzling company funds to shield personal assets during a divorce. But it didn't stay anonymous for long. One of the comments read, I know who it is, Caroline Whitman, look into her. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. My stomach turned. Mark, it had to be him. The timing, the details, he was trying to destroy me, not just personally, but professionally. He's trying to ruin me, I whispered. Rachel nodded. If this spreads, I stood up and began pacing. I had worked my entire life to build my career. I had earned every opportunity, every ounce of respect. I hadn't taken shortcuts. I hadn't cheated. And now all of that could crumble because of one lie. I need to call Anna. That night, I sat across from Anna in her office, still clutching the printout. I told her everything, my voice shaking. This isn't just a divorce anymore, I said. He's trying to destroy my name. Anna leaned back, lips pressed tight, eyes sharp. He's playing dirty. He wants you to panic. He's hoping you'll settle. I looked her straight in the eye. I'm not backing down. She nodded. Good. First thing, we file a cease and desist. If he keeps pushing, we go after him for defamation. For the first time that day, I felt something like hope. He wanted me scared. He wanted me broken. But he underestimated something important. I wasn't afraid of the truth. And I wasn't going anywhere. But Mark wasn't done. 3 days later, Anna called me back to her office. Her tone was clipped. Serious. He just filed a lawsuit. I froze. What? He's accusing you of financial fraud, she said. Claims you illegally moved marital assets. And there's more. She slid a file across the desk. He filed with a co-plaintiff. I opened the folder. The name hit me like a truck. Ilomero. It was the name from the message on Mark's phone. The mysterious contact. Who is he? I asked. Anna crossed her arms. A con artist. He's been involved in shady financial deals for years. No convictions, but a long list of accusations. I flipped through the documents. Pages filled with fake transactions, fake emails, fake signatures, including mine. These aren't mine, I said, my voice rising. They're fabrications. We know, Anna said, but now we have to prove it. I stared at the stack of lies in front of me. All that fear I'd been carrying suddenly turned to fire. He's really trying to bury me. Anna narrowed her eyes. Then let's make sure his lies cave in on him. We didn't waste a second. Anna brought in a forensic finance expert the very next morning, someone she'd worked with before on high-profile cases. The guy didn't smile much. didn't talk more than necessary, but he knew how to track a digital footprint like a bloodhound. For an entire week, we worked nonstop. We dug through bank statements, pulled original documents, traced every transaction I'd ever made. We pored over timestamps, IP logs, even the metadata on files. Every night, I crashed into bed exhausted, my brain still racing. But I kept going. This wasn't just about my money anymore. This was about my name, my work, my life. And by the end of that week, we had what we needed. The forensic report was solid. The fake documents Mark and Ilomero had submitted, full of errors, dates that didn't line up, spelling mistakes in forged emails. My signature was off, subtly, but enough to prove it wasn't mine. And the big one, several transactions they claimed I had authorized couldn't be traced to any of my verified accounts. They were sloppy, desperate. We traced the forgeries back to Ilomero's firm. The trail was digital, time-stamped, and damning. They thought they were clever. But the truth doesn't need to be clever. It just needs to be real. A month later, we walked into court. Anna was composed, calm as ever, wearing a charcoal grey suit that practically screamed confidence. I sat beside her in navy, hair pulled back, hands folded, shoulders square. Across the room sat Mark. He didn't look calm. He looked like a man who had just realised the ground beneath him was starting to crack. Angry, tight-jawed. He avoided my eyes. The judge took his time, combing through every detail. He asked questions, read every document out loud, flipped between the original records and the ones Mark had submitted. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of flipping pages and the occasional scribble of a pen. Ilomero didn't even show up. That said everything. Finally, the judge leaned back, placed both hands on the bench and looked at Mark. The ruling was clear. All of Mark's claims? Dismissed. The trust was upheld. Untouchable. Every accusation. False, malicious, and unsupported by evidence. And the best part? Mark was ordered to pay my legal fees. Every single one. When the gavel came down, I closed my eyes. Not out of relief, but out of finality. It was over. Almost. As I walked out of the courtroom, Mark tried to stop me. He stepped into my path, voice low and bitter. "You didn't have to do this." I stared him dead in the eye. "No, Mark, you didn't have to do this." And then I walked right past him. I didn't look back. In the weeks that followed, I started picking up the pieces. Slowly, quietly. I returned to writing, just a few pages a day at first. I took long walks in Central Park. I visited the bookstore I used to love, but hadn't stepped foot in for months. I didn't throw a party, I didn't pop champagne. That's not what victory felt like. Victory, for me, felt like stillness. It felt like peace after a storm, like waking up and realising for the first time in a long time that I was safe. Not because someone else promised to protect me, but because I had protected myself. One afternoon, I met Anna for lunch at a little cafe near her office. She was already seated when I arrived, scrolling through her phone. When she looked up, she smiled. Genuinely this time. "You look different," she said. "Lighter." I shrugged. "I think I'm just breathing again." She nodded and sipped her coffee. "So, what's next?" I thought about it for a second. "I don't know, but for once I'm okay with that." She smiled. "That's power, Caroline." And she was right. I had learned something during those hellish few months. Something that I think every woman, every person needs to know. Trust is a gift. But your power, your future, that's yours to protect. No matter how charming someone seems, no matter how sweet the words sound, you don't hand over control of your life, because the person you trust today could be the one trying to erase you tomorrow. Mark didn't just lie. He weaponized my love. He took advantage of my faith in him, and he underestimated what I would do when pushed. I used to think strength was staying quiet, enduring things for the sake of peace. Now I know better. Strength is taking the hits and still standing. Strength is choosing yourself, even when it means starting over. Strength is looking at the person who tried to break you and not just surviving, but thriving in spite of them. After the dust settled, I didn't rush into anything. I didn't move apartments. I didn't plan a big life change. I simply gave myself permission to exist again on my own terms. I started going back to the little things I'd stopped doing. Reading on my balcony in the mornings, journaling, saying yes to dinner with friends without having to check with anyone. The silence that used to terrify me now felt like a gift. Some days were harder than others. I won't lie. There were moments when a scent or a song would pull me back into a memory. Not always the bad ones, sometimes the good. And that was almost worse, because it reminded me how much I had believed in a life that turned out to be a lie. But I never stayed in that place for long, because now I had something I didn't before: clarity. A few weeks after the court ruling, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name handwritten in that familiar, perfect penmanship. I sat with it for a while, unsure if I even wanted to open it. Eventually, I did. It was from Mark. A single page, apologizing vaguely. No confession, no explanation. Just a string of meaningless sentences about mistakes, misunderstanding, and hoping one day we can find peace. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because I didn't need to say them. He had already heard the only thing that mattered. In court, under oath, when his lies were dismantled piece by piece. That was my response. That was the moment I took my voice back. And as for peace, I had already found it. He didn't get to take credit for that. What surprised me most in the aftermath wasn't how deeply I'd been hurt, but how quickly I started to heal once I reclaimed control. When I took steps to protect myself, to stand up for the truth, I started feeling like me again. My story isn't rare. That's the part that breaks my heart. There are thousands of women and men going through something similar. Maybe not identical, but betrayal, deception, manipulation. That's universal. It doesn't always look like bruises or shouting matches. Sometimes it looks like late-night whispers behind closed doors, like secret transactions, like soft lies disguised as concern. Sometimes it looks like love. If you're still listening, maybe this story resonates with you. Maybe you're in the middle of your own version of it. If that's the case, I want you to hear me loud and clear. You are not crazy. You are not weak, and you are not alone. The world will tell you to be patient, to trust, to forgive. And while those are beautiful qualities, they can become dangerous if they keep you from acting when you need to. I'm not saying jump to conclusions. I'm saying pay attention. Listen to that voice inside you, the one that notices when something feels off, the one that starts to whisper when things stop adding up. That voice saved me. We talk a lot about love, about soulmates, about finding the one. But the truth is, you are the one you'll spend every moment of your life with. And if you're willing to give everything to someone else, make sure you've given even more to yourself. Know your passwords, read the contracts, ask the questions. Don't apologize for protecting your future. And if someone ever tries to punish you for waking up, walk away, with your head held high, with your truth, with your strength. Because no matter how carefully someone tries to dismantle your life, the moment you decide to stand up is the moment they lose their power. I didn't plan for any of this. I didn't wake up one morning thinking I'd need lawyers and forensic accountants and court dates. But I also didn't let it break me. I'm still standing, stronger, sharper, wiser. And if I could go back and talk to the version of me who first heard those whispered words from behind the office door, I'd tell her, "You're about to find out what you're made of," and I'd be proud of what she did next. If this story moved you, or if you think someone you know needs to hear it, please share it. Like, comment. Let it be a reminder that we are never as alone as we feel in our hardest moments. Because real strength, it's not about revenge. It's about rising. And when the storm finally clears, it's about learning how to own the sky. Thank you for listening.